right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Catholic Church. And as some suggest that it is unenlightened because it opposes gay marriage and abortion. But the man about to become the new Archbishop of New York, that gentleman right there, Timothy Dolan, says that it's time for Catholics to stand up and defend the faith against those who say that it needs to change. Listen to this.
We're above the times. We're timeless in our beliefs and in our values and in our ethics and in our morality, and we don't take our cue from the winds and the trends of the day.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. The Archbishop designate also says it's time to fight back against what he calls an anti-Catholic bias. But are we really looking at prejudice or just some tough debate on some very emotional issues? So let's do it. Barry Lynn is joining us. He's the executive director for Americans United for Separation of Church and State. And Father Jonathan Morris is with us in the studio here. Welcome to you, Father. Good to have you here.
He's
a Fox News contributor. Of course, let me start with you, Mr. Lynn. What's your reaction when you hear the new Archbishop of New York about to be installed, saying that, we are without time. We are timeless. We don't change with every whim of society. I'm paraphrasing.
Well, it's perfectly fine for him to say that and to believe it and to preach it and promote it. The problem is when he suggests that people are bigoted in some way or anti-Catholic if they disagree with the position that the church has taken, whether those people are inside the church or outside the church. We have robust debate in this country in no small measure because there are lots of people left, right, and center, lots of religious people left, right, and center who want to engage in this public dialogue. It is not bigotry to say to somebody, I believe that you are wrong, particularly if you try to take your doctrine and apply it to make the laws of the United States on gay marriage, on abortion, or on any other topic.
It sounds to me like you're teeing up exactly what he's hoping for, because he's said, his words were, the word that we have to keep using is engagement. He said, we love all people, and we love gay people, we love all people in this country, but we have to engage them, and we have to tell them what we believe, and we have to talk about it. I think we're going to see something very different from this, the highest ranking member of the Catholic Church in America. What do you think, Father Jonathan?
Well, let me just clarify. Mr. Lynn made it sound a little bit like perhaps Archbishop Dolan was saying, if you don't believe with the Catholic Church, you are a bigot. Perhaps because of the two quotes that we had at the beginning. He did say that there is anti-Catholicism sentiments out there, but he wasn't saying anyone who disagrees with the Church is anti-Catholic or a bigot.
Well, where does
but let me just say, we are in answer to your question, Martha, we are in for a treat with Archbishop Dolan. I just got to spend a few days with him out in Milwaukee. Let me tell you the type of man that he is. I was getting ready to go to the airport, 6:00 a.m. flight. He offered to drive me to the airport so that his driver wouldn't have to come in and take me. This man is big and bold, and he is creative, and he loves the media.
We've had a couple of things recently, let me address this to Barry Lynn, that sort of raised some of these issues, and that's the question of Notre Dame, whether or not President Obama should speak there. I think about 250,000 Catholics signed a petition saying that he should not speak there. And then you have this other issue that's come up. There was some suggestion that Caroline Kennedy was a possibility to be the ambassador to the Holy See, to the Vatican, and that because of her pro-choice beliefs, she is not going to be considered. So those are two very clear things where the Catholic Church might be doing what Archbishop Dolan is calling for, which is to stand up and to profess your beliefs, not to impose them on others, but to say this is what we believe. Why is there a problem with that?
Yeah, well, of course, unfortunately, the bishop probably does want to impose his beliefs on some of these contentious issues on everybody. But let's turn to Notre Dame. Any university or college in this country would be proud to have any president, George Bush or Barack Obama, speak at a commencement service. And I think all we've seen with this 250,000 people who are riled up by very, very ultra-conservative Catholic groups to sign a petition, they don't even represent, by any other measure, the standards of what American Catholics believe. I think the president should be speaking. He should not be disinvited. On the issue of Caroline Kennedy, we now know that 3 people before Caroline Kennedy were essentially dismissed as possible ambassadors to the Vatican because they had 2 beliefs that were pro-choice. We cannot allow any government, or in this case a religious group, the Holy See, the ambassadors to the Holy See, we shouldn't have one to begin with, but if we do have one, they should not be able to veto whom Americans want to send as the ambassador. We'd go crazy. This whole network would blow up if
Lynn, let me jump in for just a second here.
Only send Muslims.
We're talking here again, I know you're for the separation of church and state, so am I, let me say, but I'm not in favor of getting rid of all values and of all religion out of the public square. About this Notre Dame thing, about the Notre Dame thing, let's be very clear. This is not a bunch of radical Catholics who are against the president. The university has decided to give him an honorary degree. An honorary degree, and to invite him as a commencement speaker. The local bishop of that diocese had said, I'm not going to attend. 26 other bishops did the same. The Cardinal of Chicago has said it was a mistake. The Cardinal of Houston said it was a mistake. The new, very nice Archbishop Dolan said it was a big mistake. These are not radicals, sir.
Look, I'm sure that Bishop Dolan's probably not only good to you, he's probably good to his dogs. He doesn't kick them either. We're not having a debate about whether he's a nice fellow. What we're saying is that a university, a major institution that should be open to hearing a variety of viewpoints, and Notre Dame certainly has that, should not impose a test of ideological purity or theological purity on Barack Obama. I can tell you a few people may not come, but there are a heck of a lot of people who would love to get tickets to hear Barack Obama speak at Notre Dame.
I'm sure you're right about that. Let me ask you about this, Mr. Lynn. Do you think that, when you look at society and you look at all of this, that there is a prejudice against Catholics? I feel like, in many ways, there's always this encouragement that Catholics need to change. Why don't they get like everybody else? Why don't they, prescribe to notions that we prescribe to? So, and what I hear Archbishop Dolan saying is, don't be, embarrassed. Don't be ashamed that your church doesn't want to change. We have these beliefs. This is who we are. Other religions are allowed to believe what they believe and to profess it. So why do Catholics get this pressure to change with the times?
Martha, you know what? And it's not just, Mr. Lynn, let me say, it's not just Catholics here. I think what Archbishop Dolan is saying is that there's a prejudice against anyone who comes to the public square with a belief, a value that's based on faith. Because the idea that faith is irrational is what it's at the foundation here.
Go ahead.
Father, Martha asked me the question. Let me answer it.
Go ahead.
First of all, it's ridiculous to say if you can't come to the public sphere with faith, look at Barack Obama, a man who's steeped in and who talks about religion and spirituality consistently through the presidential campaign. He did get elected. And, of course, there is no systematic or otherwise anti-Catholic bias in this country. If you want to talk about bias against groups, still anti-Muslim bias, certainly anti-atheist bias. Yeah, you could write a book about that. But there's no book that you could write about anti-Catholic bias. It's just that some people believe that the Catholic Church of today wishes to impose on all of us, Catholic and non-Catholic, a lot of positions and ideas that we don't choose out of our own spiritual faith and convictions. It's the pressure they place on secular politicians to do what the church wants that bothers so many Americans,
I don't know about
Catholics.
That. And I think that, that this assumption that so many Catholics want it to change and that there isn't, I think most people accept that there is an anti-Christian bias in this country. It's fine to bash pretty much,
Where do you see this, Martha? Where do you see this?
Ultimately acceptable, bashable group, ha, 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 look at, look at the Catholic Church.
It is not. We got 80% of America says they're Catholics. We're not bashing people. We're not tearing down nativity scenes, burning churches. This is a fiction. This is not the real world of America.
Well, the town that I grew up in New Jersey had a Supreme Court fight over having a manger in the town. So that's just, one small example of where that's happening. But Barry Lynn, we're way over time. And I thank you for being with us today. And Father Jonathan, great
Thank you very much. And greetings, Mr. Lynn. I hope we can get together sometime and have a very civil discussion over a cup of coffee or something.
And we can go on and on. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.